All right, peace and blessings to everyone. Today, July the 10th, the year 2017, an email came in today from YouTube, and it's good news. Praise God for good news. It's from copyright@youtube.com. You guys see that right up here? Copyright@youtube.com. They even have a phone number. I wonder if that phone number actually goes to YouTube. I've never had a phone number for YouTube before. That's very interesting. Anyway, it says, Dear Lone Star 1776, in accordance with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, we've completed processing your counter notification. The following videos have been restored unless you have deleted them. Then it gives the link, and it says the YouTube team. Very short and sweet, but that is good news. If you go to that link, it brings up this video here, which is my reaction video to A Noble Lie. All 142 views. And I have now pointed in the description section to Free Mind Films, so if you would like to buy the film, you can go to Free Mind Films, and under Films, A Noble Lie is the very first one listed. I do recommend you watch the film, even though the people who own the film like to issue copyright strikes against me for talking about it. I hope they don't issue a copyright strike against me for talking about their film on this video, but I'll issue a counter notification on that too. But in any event, the only thing I can think of in the very beginning, I mentioned that I heard the video or watched the video on a YouTube channel called Jack Black. That channel has now been copyright strike too. So the thing is that when I saw this video on another YouTube channel, I had no idea that they had broken with the owners of the film and were violating copyright. I didn't know that. I certainly didn't mean any ill intention toward Free Mind Film. I'm disappointed that Free Mind Film didn't communicate with me, and I had to go the full 30 days or whatever it was until I finally got my strike removed. But nonetheless, it did get removed, so I'm very happy about that. I want to show you guys something. No, not that. Yeah, this right here. Check this out. So my copyright status is in smiley face mode. I like that. Puts a smile on my face. And my community guideline status is in smiley face mode. My monetization is disabled. I've never had my channel monetized. I have looked into that, but they always don't approve me. They never approve me for anything like that. So in any event, at least I don't have any copyright claims or community guideline status. That is good news. And so I probably will go ahead and add my entire video to the end of this because I would like that to be, I'm glad I didn't lose my video. My wife and I did take a lot of notes, put a lot of effort into watching the film and making our notes, so I'll add it at the end of this comment. And if you want to get the film, go to Free Mind Films. If anybody's got it out there, and many people do, many people have uploaded the entire film, don't go watch them because they're breaking copyright. But I guess it's still okay in America to talk about films that you've watched. I don't think that's breaks copyright to talk about films. Anyway, here is my reaction video when my wife and I watched the film and the notes that we took. You guys have a great day, and let's keep marching onward, Christian soldiers. Before I close down this particular segment of the video, the last line of peaceful defense between a tyrannical government and the defendant is jury nullification. Educate yourself about jury nullification at fija.org, F-I-J-A.org. And no, they do not pay me to say that. God bless. All right, hey everyone, it's March the 19th, the year 2017. I'm here with my wife Erin. We just watched a 2-hour documentary called A Noble Lie. It's on YouTube channel Jack Black. How many views? Over 94,000 views. It's all about the Oklahoma City bombing that occurred on April the 19th, the year 1995. April 19th is a day that Waco occurred, and it's always a day that is very interesting. I think there's some history behind that day, April the 19th, but I thought we would just, since it's fresh in our minds and we just finished watching the 2-hour documentary, we would create a reaction video of everything that we recall. One of the things that I recall, I took some notes as we were watching it. There appears to be ATF pre-knowledge that all of the ATF folks, there was no ATF folks in the building, and there was a case made that the ATF had pre-knowledge, and that the ATF, just like in Waco, was trying to provide reason for their existence. If you're trying to, if you're government and you got some people that are looking to cut organizations to cut cost, the ATF and the FBI have a lot of overlap. So you can try to get rid of the ATF, but the ATF, if they can prove that they're needed, right? Operation Showtime was another name for Waco, that you need the ATF to take care of people like Waco, then you got to make a boogeyman out of Waco. So they made this case that the ATF folks definitely knew, had pre-knowledge of Oklahoma City bombing. There was a grand juror named Hoppy Heidelberg. When they brought him up on the grand jury about the Oklahoma City, he started to ask questions and he was dismissed. He ended up running for governor. They wouldn't let him go on the platform, but it was very interesting, his story that he told, that when he started asking questions...
You wanted the videotapes.
He wanted the videotapes, and he said that the purpose of the grand jury is not only to be a sword for government, to come down upon evildoers within the society, but it's also a shield to protect evildoers in government for erroneously using their power or misdirecting their power at innocent citizens. And so he was asking questions, and because he asked too many questions, he got dismissed from the grand jury that was investigating or brought together to give an indictment for investigation into the Oklahoma City bombing. I wrote a note here that when feds got involved, all the reports, what's that word?
Local?
Oh, all the local reports, right. So the local reports, all the news agencies in Oklahoma City were reporting multiple bombs in the building and also multiple suspects, John Doe number 2. And when the feds got involved and they took over the investigation, all of that stopped except for one news channel. Channel 4 continued to report true news of multiple suspects and multiple bombs in the building.
And the witnesses said there were multiple bombs.
Yeah, and just the blast pattern. Anybody that knows or has knowledge of how bombs work, there was a very strong case made that a truck bomb could not have created the blast pattern that it created. I think there was 19 children that died in the Oklahoma City bombings, similar to Waco. That Channel 4 local station that was reporting true news, they were bought out by a bigger company, and then they ended up toting the government line. There was multiple people with McVeigh. The documentary put forward the idea that multiple people were with McVeigh in the Ryder truck. There was a stripper that said McVeigh had visited something Godiva. It was a strip club, right? And she said McVeigh came in along with another man, and out in the parking lot was a Ryder truck. So there was definitely people that were riding around with McVeigh in that Ryder truck. Terry Nichols is serving life in prison, and he asked John Ashcroft to come, and he would tell him, he said there are things the American people need to know. I don't know what Terry Nichols' role is. I don't even know what the documentary doesn't put forward the idea that Timothy McVeigh was innocent or guilty. He could have been a patsy. He could have been in on some sort of sting operation, and he became a patsy. So we don't know if Timothy McVeigh, but it is interesting that when Timothy McVeigh had his trial, that he was in the defense team. They had one of the #1 mind control doctors handling Timothy McVeigh all the way up until his death. And even his death certificate said that his occupation was U.S. Army.
And his family said he was still working for the Army covertly.
Yeah, they put forward evidence that even though Timothy McVeigh was supposed to be out of the Army, he was writing his family saying that he was performing covert operations for the special ops or some sort of black ops, and that
his boss was Larry Potts.
Oh my goodness, yeah. There's evidence to suggest that Timothy McVeigh's handler was Larry Potts. Larry Potts is an FBI lead agent at Ruby Ridge, where Randy Weaver's family got shot, Vicky Weaver and his son.
And also worked at Waco.
And Larry Potts was also one of the lead agents at Waco, and he's handling Timothy McVeigh, which is absolutely insane. And then You also have Timothy McVeigh telling his family that he's involved in covert ops to infiltrate militias throughout America. The operation was known as PATCON, Patriot Connection, I guess. And they wanted, the government openly, not openly, but in this covert operation, wanted to infiltrate every single militia organization in this country.
Didn't they say there were 6 of these undercover guys at Elohim City?
Yeah, there was a connection made between Timothy McVeigh and Elohim City. They said that if 3 people gathered to talk about the government at Elohim City, it's very likely that 2 of them were undercover agents, because there were so many other undercover agents at Elohim City. And they tried to make a connection between Elohim City and Oklahoma City bombing. There was a police man named Terry Yeakey, I believe. Terry Yeakey, Y-E-A-K-E. Yeakey, maybe. He was a black policeman in Oklahoma, and he knew too much. He was at the bombing, and he was going to testify. But he was found tortured and murdered. And there's evidence to suggest that there's no way it could have been a suicide, but it was ruled a suicide. And he was a decorated policeman. And he was there, and he could have testified on a lot of different things. But he was tortured and murdered. So
because he had too much information.
He had too much information about the bombing. What else?
Usually cop killers are hunted down like rats, but they just let them go.
Yeah, this whole the family of Terry Yeakey said they were treated very badly, and that they none of their questions were answered, and they interviewed the family of Terry Yeakey. It was very interesting. Christopher Emery was the producer of the film, I believe. There's a book out called Final Report. I have a copy of it. It's 555 pages long. It documents a lot of the stuff in this movie as well, I believe. I don't know why they called it A Noble Lie.
That's a weird title.
I don't even think the title matches. I mean, any lie, there's no such thing as a noble lie. And they said that, was it a sting operation gone bad, or was it purposely designed to be a terrorist attack by rogue elements in our government? And so they left it like a question. They don't know if it was a sting operation and maybe it got out of hand, and they were supposed to stop it before it became a terrorist operation, or was it rogue elements in government that actually wanted to kill Americans, right, in order to propagate the police state and more government control?
The areas taken out were Secret Service, DEA, and ATF in the building.
If you look at a map of the building and what areas were taken out, it was Secret Service, DEA, and ATF, and all the ATF folks were out of the building. There was a guy by the name of, what was his name, the guy who did the grand jury, Charles Key, I believe? Mm-hmm. Charles Key started a grand jury in Oklahoma City to do a citizen's investigation. He got 11,000 or 12,000 signatures. He only needed 5,000. There was lots of money that poured in. Unfortunately, the investigation was taken over by a federal district attorney named Bob Macy, and he basically ruined everything. Once the federal district attorney got control of the monies and the citizens investigation, they stopped investigating the government, and they started to investigate Charles Key and give them a bad name rather than shine light on the wickedness of government. So that just tells me, if you're going to do a citizens investigation, don't ever get anybody from the federal government involved. You know, Dale Phillips, he was another guy on the Oklahoma City bombing committee. They used a lot of testimony from him. They said that there's no way it could have been an ammonium nitrate bomb, because ammonium nitrate bombs produce ammonium nitrate gas. Noxious, and everybody around the area would have been
running away from it.
Yeah, it would have been hospitalized, and there was none of that. So
they said the rebar too in the concrete was the thickness of your arm, because it was a federal building.
Right.
And they wouldn't rescue the survivors because they wanted to go and collect their paperwork.
Right. They put the rescuing of the victims on hold to collect all the paperwork and to gather evidence, and then they destroyed the building, even though
the architects said they could fix it.
They could rebuild the building, but they said
they destroyed it really quickly.
Just like they did when they got rid of all the 9/11 evidence. You know, they got rid of the buildings and shipped all the metal over to.
It was like a dress rehearsal for 9/11.
Yeah. There's a lot of parallels between Oklahoma City and 9/11. So it's very important piece of information that if it wasn't an ammonium nitrate bomb, there would have been so much ammonium nitrate gas that everybody would have been hospitalized, and that was not the case. There was a guy by the name of Dr. Frederick Whitehurst. He was an FBI whistleblower, and when he started to ask questions, because he started to produce information about the laboratories within the FBI and about how they were manipulating evidence and painting a story that was not true, they got rid of Dr. Frederick Whitehurst. He reminds me of Chad Joy, who was another FBI whistleblower. There was a very interesting side story. His name is Jesse Trentadue, if I wrote my notes down properly. And Jesse Trentadue had a brother. I forget his brother's name, but I think it could have been Kenneth Michael. So Jesse had a brother named Kenneth Trentadue. And Kenneth looked a lot like this John Doe number 2. It was a coincidence. He was not John Doe.
He also had a tattoo.
He had a tattoo on his left arm that made the FBI government think he was John Doe number 2, but he was not, right?
They pumped him full of Coca-Cola to increase the torture.
They put caffeine in him because when you're full of caffeine, you're sensitive and your sensory nerves are very sensitive, and then they tortured the hell out of him. I mean, it was absolutely wicked what they did to this man.
And called it a suicide.
And then they tried to keep the body from the family.
They tried to cremate it right away.
They tried to cremate the body, but the family didn't want that. And
fortunately for the family, the brother was a lawyer, and he was able to get the body.
Yeah, the brother's name is Jesse Trentadue. He's a lawyer, and he knows all about FOIA requests, and he fought like crazy to get the body, and he fought for his brother. And what it appears is that there was elements of the FBI that mistakenly identified Kenneth Trentadue as John Doe number 2. He was not John Doe number 2, but they thought that he was, and they absolutely killed him because of mistaken identity. It's a horrific story. They said Jesse Trentadue said that he got a communication from Timothy McVeigh, and Timothy McVeigh told him before he was executed that he believed that his brother was killed because he looks a lot like Richard Lee Guthrie. And I need to investigate this Richard Lee Guthrie more. There was another guy by the name of Andy Strausmeyer that came over from Germany, and Andy Strausmeyer might have been involved in the planting of the putty and the detonation cord. And there was a lady by the name of, I wrote her name down, where's that third page? Jane Graham. Jane Graham was a survivor. She worked at the building, and she testified that she saw somebody who looked a lot like Andy Strausmeyer
directing
activities to put up putty, which would be C4 explosives and detonation cord. So Jane Graham had some incredibly important testimony, and she said that she went to visit the Oklahoma senators as well as congressmen, and nobody would talk to her.
Yeah, first they said there was 1,200 pounds, then they said 4,800 pounds, then they said 7,000 pounds of fertilizer. But even if they had that much fertilizer, there's no way it would take down that building like that.
Yeah, and we already talked about Larry Potts. He was the lead agent who handled Timothy McVeigh when he went to do covert operations. None of the videos were released.
No, still to this day.
Yeah, supposedly they have acknowledged that they have videos of the Ryder truck pulling up, whether it shows Timothy McVeigh all by himself or with other people.
And all the neighbor businesses got theirs confiscated by the FBI too.
There was even a guy that testified that the FBI had him duplicate over 400 videotapes, but he was not allowed to keep any for himself. He was monitored as he was duplicating by an FBI agent, and once the work was done, he had to hand everything over, and he said that he was not allowed to even watch it. He was just only ordered to duplicate it. So his testimony was important, but they definitely have videotapes of Oklahoma City that they're not releasing to the public. The whole idea of infiltrating every single militia and anti-government group all throughout America doesn't surprise me at this point. I mean, that definitely was what they were doing. They could have been using Timothy McVeigh in that effort. So again, I would say the conclusion for me, Aaron, and there was probably a lot of highlights we're missing because it's such a detailed documentary in 2 hours, but they left it open whether it was a sting operation gone bad or whether it was rogue elements in government who purposely did this in order to bring about a funding and justifying of the ATF, also to justify a bigger police state, bigger ATF. If you have a terrorist activity like this that's pulled off successfully, well, all of a sudden everybody's jobs becomes more justified, and You know, so.
And they sacrificed 19 little children for this operation.
Yeah, that's a horrific thing. There was a grandmother of 2 of the children that gave incredible testimony, how she tried to get answers and was stonewalled at every turn. She was told all the answers will come out in Timothy McVeigh's trial. She said at the end of Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols' trial, she had more questions than she had answers.
And this book, The Final Report, came out 2 weeks before 9/11.
Yeah, that's incredible too. We've got a copy of this book called The Final Report, and it came out just a few weeks before 9/11, like Aaron said. Trying to think of anything else that's important. The reason I started to revisit, the reason Aaron and I came back and we wanted to refresh our memory on this whole Oklahoma City thing is our communication with Jason Gerhard. Because Jason Gerhard wrote an article that basically said Timothy McVeigh, it put forth the idea that he wasn't as guilty, or he wasn't the huge criminal that everybody thinks he is. Now, I don't have an opinion about Timothy McVeigh. Whether he was part of a government sting operation and he really didn't know how far it was going to go, or maybe he was a patsy like Lee Harvey Oswald. Who knows?
I just don't like anybody who goes undercover and acts like a liar.
Right, right. If he was participating in PATCON, Patriot Connection, and if Timothy McVeigh was infiltrating militia groups, well, he's already the enemy because he's working for the FBI and he's working for Larry Potts. So there's no sympathy for me towards Timothy McVeigh if he's working for Larry Potts, who was a lead FBI agent at Waco and Ruby Ridge.
There is some theory, too, that I've heard spoken that Timothy McVeigh was given a lethal injection that didn't kill him, that just put him to sleep, and that maybe they took him out of there alive.
That's always a possibility. They've just moved him to a different part of the world.
Somebody could look into that.
Yeah. Terry Nichols is supposedly still in prison, serving 161 life sentences without the possibility of parole. I think he's in ADX Florence Supermax, which is probably the most Supermax prison on this in the United States. So
it's probably a CM, communication management.
Yeah. Believe it or not, now that I've revisited Noble Eye, I plan on writing Terry Nichols a letter and see if he responds. I'm not going to be sympathetic or non-sympathetic. All right. Believe it or not, as we were closing down that last video, a call comes in from a scam it's this organization that calls us all the time, about how to get percentages off our credit card. Anyway, I wanted to finish my thought. I do plan on writing Terry Nichols. I just want to see what he has to say. I'm not sympathetic to Terry Nichols or not sympathetic to Terry Nichols. I don't know all of the details about Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols.
We'll never know the truth in that case.
But I would like to hear what Terry Nichols has to say, right? He obviously probably has a lot of knowledge about this. I want to see, maybe I can mail him the final report. I don't know if he's even read the final report. It is paperback, so I should be able to mail him a copy. And I can, this is a 555-page book that's been put together by a Citizens Investigative Committee regarding the Oklahoma City bombing, and ask Terry Nichols and just give him a voice. And I want to hear what he has to say. So anyway, that's about it. Anything you want to add, Aaron? Remember the 19 children. It's absolutely horrific. The evil bastards that are participating in all of this wickedness, they don't mind killing children.
God's watching you guys.
Yeah. And when these people get sent to hell, we serve a mighty and a just and a God. And when they go to hell, it ain't because the Lord is doing anything they don't deserve. They will deserve it. Absolutely. All right. That's all I got to say. God bless.
The rabbit hole is dark and deep.
Bye-bye.